October 11th is National Coming Out Day, and October is Gay and Lesbian History Month. Is there someone you want to come out to? Some dykes talk about taking back their identity.
Here come the lesbians. Don't look in the closet. Just sweep them down the stairs. Put the bed up behind you.
First people to tell me that I was a dyke. This is how I knew I was a dyke. I knew what dyke was when they explained it to me. Jackie and Olivia were two drag queens that were in my neighborhood. They were Afro-American. They took everybody in. I mean, all the kids in the neighborhoods, you know, they took you in and said, you know, don't worry about it. Don't, you know, if you're running away from home and stuff. But me, they especially took in and they told me, leave your dresses here. Don't worry about it, because we'll wear the dresses. Don't worry about it. You're a dyke. You like the girls, we know who you are. You know who you are? You're a dyke. There. And that's how it went, you know?
I kind of knew that I liked girls when I was about in second grade. I remember proposing to a little girl in my class.
In second grade?
Yeah, I was competing with my best friend Carlton, who also proposed to her. And I think she stood us both up. So that was, yeah.
You were smart. Get out of that.
And I think that's my earliest kind of memory of sort of acting out my attraction for girls.
What does gay pride mean to me? It means being proud and happy to be a lesbian, a Native American lesbian, in the city, living free.
What gay pride means to me is that I can walk down the street holding hands with my girlfriend, that I don't have to be up front and in somebody's face all the time, that I can just live my life like my parents live, in the same, you know, they can sit in their house and kiss, and they can walk down the street and kiss, and I want to be able to do the same thing. That's my pride, is that I can walk down the street and give my girlfriend a kiss on the cheek and not get killed.
I'm a gay, lesbian, female that loves studs. And when I mean studs, I mean women that is masculine, that act like men, but not men.
I always knew that I was a dyke. I always was attracted to women. I guess I didn't know that term, but when I was very young, I lived in a real matriarchal gypsy community. My grandmother was sort of like the matriarch of the whole enlarged family, not nuclear family. And I had two aunts who both related to other women, but I just had never heard the word dyke or ever thought anything about it. And my father also had a relationship with a man that I remember really clearly. And so I never, I never thought there was anything odd or peculiar about being attracted to women.
I guess I knew I was a dyke when I was about 13, soon after I knew what the definition of these people are that I identified it with, you know. Yeah, I learned it in a book. It was called Walk on the Wild Side, which I read during...
It's a novel?
Yeah, I think so. Or it was kind of just like a description of all these underworld people. Right.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't cheap. It was pretty good, actually.
Well, my coming out was, I met this stud. I lived at 7230 Prospect in Chicago. She moved downstairs, and me and my sister was living upstairs. And when I seen her, she looked like a man. And, well, I thought she was, until I got to talk to her. And when I talked to her, she said, I'm a female. And we got to talking, and she got to telling me about traveling, and very excited me, because I never traveled before in my life. So, as we talked, we got to touching and kissing, and I liked it. And we made love, and I liked that part. So, that was my coming out.
One night, we snuck out, we got out of the school, and it was because we were celebrating my birthday, which was coming up soon. And I can't remember if it was my 15th or 16th birthday, but we went to Hempstead, Long Island. We went into this bar, and we had phony IDs on the whole trip. And we were drinking in this bar, and then at one point we hugged each other and started to kiss. and looked up, and there were we were certainly the center of attention in this really sort of rednecky bar, and we kind of thought we had to get out of there quick. And when we left, we ended up getting jumped by 6 guys that were from that bar, and they're actually the ones that were putting a word on what we were. We were, these goddamn dykes, all we needed was a good fuck, the whole thing. And so both Ann and I were raped. And then, a lot of this part I don't really remember. I know that we both ended up in the hospital, and I had gotten kicked in the head. My eyeball was hanging out. And so I was all wrapped up in this hospital, and I could hardly see because I have good vision in one eye, and it was the good eye that was all wrapped up. And next thing I knew, when I was well enough to leave the hospital, I was put into an ambulance, and I was transferred to a mental hospital.
Briefly, it was a Halloween in Rome, and I was at a party that was held in the lobby, and this woman was there, and she was a gorgeous little butch woman with short hair and a black dress, and I knew we picked up this rapport, and we started talking, and I realized, I just knew there was just this response between us, and we wound up, the first night I met her, and I was just a very pursued situation on my end. We wound up in her room, and it was a 3-day love affair, that lasted the whole time I was in Rome. I'd go to Florence and go to a museum and come back in mad pursuit of seeing her again. And it was everything I'd ever thought about, not just on a sexual nature, but the closeness and the sharing, and someone who understood where I felt about, how I felt about art and where I wanted to be at with that. That was, it was very eye-opening. It was very warm for me, and I just knew, and I had known for a long time, this is my comfort zone. This is where I feel like I am myself without any barriers in my way.
It depends on where you count what coming out is. Some people make it sexual, some people make it identity. I think identity is coming out.
I was 22, and it was in Pittsburgh, in this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in Pittsburgh, and this beautiful woman that had lavender eyes I was in love with, and she was visiting some woman that she was loving, but she was straight, and so she was, I don't know, she was kind of in an unrequited place and all jazzed up. And then we went to bed, and I just willed her to touch me. I willed her, and I hadn't, done no other sex before. And I willed her and beamed to her, and then she touched me. And then we did it. And it was glorious. And I knew right then I was a lesbian. I suspected it because I was in love with every teacher that, as I was growing up. But that was it. And I knew, and I still remember. That's a memory I will never forget.
Well, I don't think I was choose to be a lesbian. I think me and men don't get along. We really don't. We have a problem. The problem is that when I was younger and into men, they hurted me as far as having sex-wise. Every time I would have an affair with a man, I ended up at the hospital bleeding. For some reason, my vagina was built too small to be inserted, so I couldn't do it that way, okay? And when I found out what women was and the softness and having sex with them that was comfortable, I didn't hurt no more, and I didn't bleed no more. So, yes, I think, in a way, I was born to be gay.
I think for myself, I think I made a choice at one point in my life, and it's always hard to say whether I made that choice at that point and wasn't really aware of myself as a dyke before then, because I was just repressed, and it wasn't something that I would let into my mind as a possibility. But in some ways I feel like it was a choice for me, but I've certainly met plenty of women that feel like that they were born that way, and I believe that, it's like there's no simple answer to anything.
I feel I chose. I feel I chose to be a lesbian based on my experiences in life. The things that have occurred in my life that I find women and be close to a woman more nurturing. I feel a safety factor with women that I don't feel with men, and that has the majority of that has to do with how my life has progressed. You know, my experiences with men have not been as pleasant. I don't feel as safe or as secure as I do with women. And it's a choice for me.
I just sort of accidentally finished coming out to my parents my last trip home about a month ago. So for me, it's kind of a process that's still happening, and it feels active. But it's strange because my parents aren't people who are going to talk about it. It's sort of like something they acknowledge, and then we'll never talk about it again. Right.
Don't talk about it.
And never talk about it again. Die of a heart attack sucking that in. So
I just came out to my parents a couple of years ago.
how was that?
And that was, I'm 43 now, so I was 40. It was, I think it killed my father. And my mother said that she didn't understand. And I said, well, I don't understand heterosexuality either. And then there's this big pause, and then she said, well, I still love you. And I said, well, thanks. But I do feel like I killed my father, because he died soon after.
And then my mother ended up having cancer and being really sick, and, you know, expected not to live for a year or two more. And so I started to go home more. And for a while, she kind of stopped talking about it. And I felt like, well, maybe it's like the reality of death being imminent and stuff just makes priorities seem really different, and being queer just isn't that big a deal. But actually, in the last 6 months or so of her life, she started talking to me about it again and saying, you know, she's dying and I'm the one that has the big problem and needs to go get help. And so anyway, it's been really hard for me to have her die with that being the end of our relationship.
After me and her had our affair, I went home, told my mother, Ma, I got something to tell you. And I sat there and I explained to her that I had had an affair with a woman and how good it felt to me and how I liked it. And she was like, baby, that call, you like women. And she explained to me what it was, and she told me, wasn't no sense to being ashamed. Just go for it. I set my daddy down, got him a drink, and told him, Daddy, something I got to tell you. I said, Dad, I like women. He took his drink, and he drunk it straight down. He didn't say nothing the first time. So I went to work the next day, and I come home. He said, tell me what you told me again. So I told him again. He's like, baby, it's a sin. It's wrong. You ain't supposed to do that. I said, Dad, it's not wrong. It's right for me. So we fell out for about a year and a half. We didn't communicate for a year and a half. But then when Mama got through talking to him and stuff, it took 2 years, but he came around.
You know, my fear of coming out was my family. It wasn't friends, you know, and my family was what I felt would be the hardest thing to do. You know, it was to come out with them. And I just recently did do that, honestly, with my sister and my brother. And they've known for years, so, you know, it's like, are you happy? You know, we want to know if you're happy, and, you know, as long as you're happy, it's okay with us. And it was my own self-imposed homophobia that didn't allow me to feel comfortable in telling them, and they've always been okay about it.
And I think the ways that I'm coming out right now is in my work, and I've begun to do that, and that's I think the last stronghold, because, you know, of course, without income, it's hard to live in this world. And so I think that that's one place that a lot of people don't feel free being out.
Oh, coming out in the job is a hard one, too. It's like I definitely have experienced being fired for being who I am and stuff, and struggling to try and take them up on that and confront them on it. It's really, because we don't have any laws and stuff, that's, you know, I think that's one of the reasons we have to get up in people's face.
At my job, I used to work for Planned Parenthood. It was easy. I mean, because you see most gays at Planned Parenthood. You know, they don't ask you your sexual preference. You just do your job, and that's it.
And at school, I do some speaking, and every time I do a talk about anything, mental patients or gypsies or sexuality, I always come out just as a matter of course, because it pertains so heavily to what I'm talking about on any of those topics. And so I would want to say that, you know, I come out all the time, but I also am in a really privileged position, too, where I don't have a boss that would fire me if they knew that I was a dyke. And I also, I work with a lot of lesbians, and so there's a lot of support in numbers.
The only time I really feel like I had to consciously hide I was a lesbian, like in a day-to-day way, was when I worked in rural Missouri as a school bus driver. And at that point, and I think I guess I'm not sure if it's true now or not, but it was illegal just to be queer in Missouri. And so to drive a school bus and be queer would really that was no way you could keep that job. So I really felt on that job like I had to not talk about my life, not let anybody know, you know, even though the fact was that probably almost everybody there knew I was a lesbian, or a lot of people did. It was kind of like town gossip, everybody. It was a small town, people knew everything. But I really hated what it was like to go to work every day and talk to people and have everybody talking about their families and what they've been doing and this and that, and I just felt silenced.
We tried organizing to get a Pride March going down in the Tri-Cities, but people are too afraid in small towns because everybody knows everybody else and they're afraid to come out a lot of times, and it puts a lot of pressure on those of us that are out.
I think I'm received okay. There is a lot of homophobia in the African American community, and I'm working on addressing that by getting involved with the city council to kind of deal with homophobia in the African American community. It is there, you know, it's without a doubt, but I feel as though it's something that can be handled and worked on. It's something that many of us were taught, you know, that you're really sick, this is really wrong, and it goes against the Bible, and, you know, blasé about that. But on a whole, the African-American community is very loving, and it has always had lesbians and gays within the community. Most of us have not had the ability to live in areas that were just the gay community. We've had to always live within our own community. And there's always been, well, you know, growing up, you know, that person was funny was what I was told, or they were a fairy. You know, I was told those type of things. And those labels were really cruel. Those are things we need to address. But community acceptance, it always has been there.
I think I come out every time I'm in somebody's face. You know, it's like, I think people know the minute, you know, they might not know the minute you walk up to call you sir, but then they'll go, oh, you know. And nowadays, I've just been going to everybody almost, even people that are calling me sir. I just go, oh, it's all right, I'm a dyke. And then they can't say anything, you know. It's like they give you the wrong change back. And sometimes it works to your benefit, but, you know.
I'm 6 months pregnant, and I feel very intense about making sure that, there's my belly, about making sure that people know that I'm a lesbian and that I'm not pregnant from a straight relationship, and that dykes get pregnant. And I got a little button to put on my pregnant belly that says my mom's a lesbian, and to wear more dyke buttons and make a commitment to be even more out as a lesbian, because I think people would just make assumptions and stuff. And I talk about my partner adopting the baby.
I also have to come out all the time as a gypsy, and I have to come out all the time as an ex-mental patient, too. So I'm constantly coming out in my life.
Yeah, the more visible we are, and not only lesbians, even SM, you know, just being out there, and it allows other women to understand what it is about sexuality and ask for what they want, instead of, like I did with that woman, coming out, willing it, and read my mind, and if you happen to be psychic, then maybe you can do it. But, you know, reading each other's minds gets us very confused around sex, and instead of just saying, this is what I want, these are my boundaries, can you accommodate that?
I think I'm still coming out. I think until, you know, lesbians and gays can feel completely safe in this society and have all the benefits that every other U.S. citizen enjoys until we are assured of those rights by law or, you know, first of all. And then, you know, eventually I think people will change their mind because they'll see, you know, we're not a threat to them. I think we will always be coming out in the process of coming out.
Yeah, I would love to talk about coming out at my high school reunion because I went back after 20. I wasn't a dyke in high school. In fact, the only thing I probably ever knew about lesbians was dirty jokes or something. But I went back there and decided, you know, I was just going to talk to everybody about who I was. I probably came out to 100, 150 people in a 2-day period, you know. And it was great. It was great. I felt like I got all kinds of responses, you know. I mean, some people would like end the conversation, you know. Other people really wanted, some people were seeking me out because they heard I was a lesbian and they wanted to talk about it. And
Dykes come in all sizes, colors, ages, beliefs, and nationalities. With 5.5 billion people in the world, at least 500 million could be lesbian.
Here's the point that I have made. Women are gonna give you fever, be it Fahrenheit or
More dykes that are out there openly living their lives, the easier it is for everyone to sort of live their lives. I think it makes you, I think one of the things that's really hard about coming out is the part where you feel like you're the only one and you're all alone in the world. So I kind of think that, you know, having that visibility makes you feel like you're not some, you know, strange person out there alone.
I think it does. I think that coming out means that you're working to a greater potential of who you are as a human being. That's part of who you are. I know that when I first came out, it was like, oh, all these new things and talents and skills just started coming out of me, and interests, you know, and just being able, that freedom to have that. I think if people knew that by repressing your sexuality, you repress other parts of your being too, then they would be more willing to explore that too, their sexuality.
I think if they're honest and tell it how they feel about another human being, they would just tell, like, hey, I'm coming out. I like this woman. She makes me feel good. It'd be easier than hiding it. Because if you're hiding it, you're holding all that inside of you. And it hurts. You know, if I can help some other young gay person coming out, I'm willing to help. You know, well, mine may be easy. They may be scared to tell their parents, you know. But just tell them. It's easy. Either they're going to accept you or they ain't.
The lighthearted side of me would just like to say, you know, come out and everything will be fine. You'll have a whole lot of support, and there's wonderful things like Lambda House. And the other side of me, it really wants to tell, especially teenagers, to be really careful and make sure they have a good support network, because the mental torture industry is at it again. There's kids, there's gay kids that are being electroshocked as we talk. There's a hospital in Utah that is just about specializing in, what do they call it, reintegration of gay teens.
There are the young people coming out that need to know that it's okay how you feel. You know, you're all right, no matter what you may think. And there's many women who are sitting at home that are debating about coming out, and they need to know and feel that it's okay to be who they are and to be comfortable with themselves and not have to lead double lives, you know, and there's a support system there for you if you want to be out.
I wonder how much people who are coming out know about what's happened before them, and how, and I think I would like them to know, you know, because I know I've learned a lot from talking to and reading about the dykes that came before me.
My message to any woman that's coming out is to be yourself. And when you're yourself, and to take care of yourself first and foremost, you're the happiest. And if you feel that you're a lesbian woman, then come out and you'll find a lot of embracing out there in the community for you.
But don't stop coming out, and keep loving yourself no matter what other people say to you. Know who you are, know what you're doing, you know, be aware, and you know, treat other people around you with some kindness, but don't be in the way of people who are going to be angry and hateful and mean, and you know, work to stop that as much as possible.
someone newly coming out, well, I would say mazel tov. I'm Jewish, and I would have to say mazel tov and great. And being a lesbian is like one of the best things I ever, coming out, not just being a lesbian, but coming out was one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Someone newly coming out, what would I say to them? Good luck. I don't know. I mean,
Good luck. Good health.
Right. You're on the right path. Hey, see ya.
Take the risk and come out because it's worth it. It's worth it. It's a whole world of fantastic, happy, happy, joy, joy world.
If you're just coming out and you're sure that this is what you want to do, be honest with yourself first. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you cannot be honest with nobody else. But if you know this is what you want to do, tell it, shout it, scream it, but tell it.
Okay. Come out, wherever you are.
Hooray. Right on. Keep on coming. That's what I would say. Right on. Good move. Keep working at it.